Your to-do list keeps growing, yet you feel less in command than ever. We exhaust ourselves trying to manage every outcome, only to find the world stubbornly refuses to follow our script. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus offered a different path, saying, "Some things are within our power, while others are not." This video will guide you through a series of powerful Stoic principles that reveal a profound paradox. Letting go of what you cannot control is the very act that forges unshakable inner strength. We will explore the crucial distinction between what is yours to command and what is not, the serenity of acceptance, how to build resilience through adversity, and the power of anchoring yourself in the present moment. By the end, you will possess a practical framework to trade anxiety for a deep, lasting sense of personal power. We will uncover why fighting reality is the source of our stress and how your greatest challenges are secretly your most valuable training ground. What is the one thing you are currently trying to control that you know, deep down, you must release? The first and most crucial step in Stoicism is learning to distinguish between what is yours to command and what is not. This is the bedrock principle known as the Dichotomy of Control. Our judgments, our intentions, our desires and aversions, these are the things that are truly within our power. They belong to us, but our body, our possessions, our reputation, and what other people think of us, these are ultimately not within our direct control. They are not truly ours to manage. This is not a call for passive surrender. It is an active and strategic reorientation of your effort. You stop wasting your precious energy fighting against the unchangeable currents of life, and you start investing it entirely in the one place it will always make a difference, your own voluntary choices and your responses. The Stoic teacher Epictetus begins his manual for life, the Enchiridion, with this very distinction. He writes that our own opinions, pursuits, desires, and aversions are within our power, while our body, our property, our reputation, and our public offices are not. Think about a job interview. You can spend days agonizing over whether the hiring manager will like you, a factor entirely outside your control. Or you can pour that same mental and emotional energy into what you do control, preparing thoroughly, practicing your answers, and presenting the best version of yourself. The outcome of the interview is not yours to decide, but the quality of your preparation is. This shift in focus is where your power is born. Take a moment and bring to mind 3 things that are currently causing you worry. Now, honestly ask yourself, which of these are truly within your sphere of command, and which are you trying to control against all odds? This simple act of categorization is the first exercise in building a stronger, more resilient mind. What is the emotional cost of fighting reality? We often exhaust ourselves in a silent, internal war against circumstances that have already happened. The second Stoic principle addresses this directly, revealing that acceptance is the gateway to a profound and lasting serenity. This is not passive resignation. It is an act of clear-eyed perception, a courageous willingness to see the world exactly as it is, without the filter of our wishes or our complaints. The Stoics called this amor fati, a love of one's fate. It is the practice of embracing everything that life brings, not because it is always pleasant, but because it is your material to work with. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly reinforced this in his private writings. He advised himself to accept whatever comes to you, woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more fittingly suit your needs. He saw the universe as a living, intelligent whole, and every event, even hardship, was a necessary thread in its grand design. Acceptance is the moment you stop arguing with what is already true. Think of a skilled sailor on a vast ocean. They cannot command the wind or calm the waves through sheer force of will. A foolish sailor might waste their energy cursing the storm, growing frantic and making poor decisions. A wise sailor, however, accepts the conditions as they are. This clear acceptance is what allows them to read the sea, adjust the sails, and navigate the ship effectively. The storm did not vanish, but their relationship to it transformed. Their energy is now channeled into skillful response, not futile resistance. In your own life, when you accept a traffic jam as a present fact, you stop fuming and might instead use the time to listen to an audiobook. When you accept a critical comment as already spoken, you can evaluate it for useful feedback instead of seething with anger. Acceptance disarms the event of its power to emotionally hijack you, freeing your inner resources to respond with wisdom and intention. Bring to mind a recent frustration, large or small. Perhaps a project at work was suddenly cancelled or a friend let you down. Recall the initial surge of resistance, the mental protest that this should not be happening. Now consider how your experience might have shifted if your first response had been one of acceptance, not approval, but a simple acknowledgement of the new reality. The emotional turbulence would have subsided, leaving a calm space where a thoughtful decision could be made. An archer draws his bow with perfect form, focusing only on his aim. He cannot command the wind, nor can he guarantee his arrow will strike the target. His power lies entirely in the quality of his shot. This ancient analogy perfectly illustrates the third Stoic principle, cognitive detachment from outcomes. Your strength is forged by investing completely in right action while letting go of your emotional grip on the specific result. The Stoics called this the reserve clause. It means you do your very best, you act with virtue and intention, but you add the silent phrase, fate permitting. You pour your entire being into the process, holding the outcome lightly in an open hand. This is not a lack of ambition. It is the ultimate form of emotional intelligence, a way to prevent disappointment from derailing your effort and your character. The philosopher Seneca captured this beautifully when he advised that we should do our duty well, without being attached to praise or reward. He wrote that a good person will perform their task to the best of their ability, even if no one will ever know, even if no reward is forthcoming. Their satisfaction comes from the integrity of the action itself, not from the applause that may or may not follow. Think of a dedicated athlete. Their entire focus is on their training, their nutrition, their mental preparation, and their performance on the field. They control their effort with absolute precision, but they cannot control the skill of their opponent, a lucky bounce of the ball, or the judgment of a referee. An athlete who is attached only to winning will be shattered by a loss, their self-worth tied to a result they could not fully command. But an athlete who is detached from the win, who finds their value in the quality of their performance, remains resilient. A loss becomes feedback, not failure. They can appreciate a great game even in defeat because their inner strength was never on the line, only their effort was. Now bring to mind one area of your own life where you feel a tight, anxious grip on a specific outcome. Perhaps it is a promotion you desperately want, or a particular response from someone you care about. How would your approach change if you invested that same energy entirely into the actions you control, while repeating that simple, powerful phrase, fate permitting? The strain of demanding a certain future would dissolve, leaving only the clear, powerful focus of your best effort in the present. Stoics argue that the fortress you build with externals has walls of sand. We spend our lives accumulating wealth, climbing social ladders, and securing relationships, believing these will make us safe and happy. Yet these are all things that fortune can give and fortune can take away in an instant. Placing your sense of security there is like building your home on a foundation of shifting gravel. The moment a storm arrives, the entire structure crumbles. True, unshakable strength is not found in what you possess, but in who you are. It is the inner fortress of your character, your principles, and your reasoned choices that no external event can ever demolish. The Stoic teacher Seneca warned powerfully against this illusion. He wrote that a man who is not fortified within will find any reason for fear, while the man who has overcome all his internal fears, what can frighten him? He is armed against all events. Your bank account cannot grant you courage. Your job title cannot bestow tranquility. These are merely decorations on the outside of a house that may be empty and fragile within. Consider the story of two people facing the same catastrophe, the sudden loss of their wealth. One has built their entire identity and sense of worth upon their fortune. When it vanishes, their world collapses into despair, bitterness, and a feeling of utter helplessness. They believed the money was their strength, and without it, they are nothing. The other person, however, has cultivated an inner life of virtue. They value their integrity, their resilience, and their capacity for rational action. While the financial loss is a practical hardship, it does not shatter their core self. They remain steady, able to assess the situation clearly and begin rebuilding, because their true source of power was never in the money to begin with. It was always within them. This is the profound shift from seeking security outside to building it inside. Now, bring to mind one external thing you currently rely on for your happiness or sense of stability. Is it your savings, a particular relationship, or the approval of others? Acknowledge that this thing, however wonderful, is ultimately on loan from fate. What is one small step you could take today to strengthen the internal alternative, to reinforce the walls of your own character, so that your peace is no longer held hostage by the unpredictable winds of chance? What if you intentionally made your life a little harder to become much stronger? This is the essence of the fifth Stoic principle, the art of voluntary discomfort. It is a form of training for the soul, a deliberate practice of doing without certain comforts to prove to yourself, through direct experience, that your happiness and inner strength do not depend on them. This is not about punishing yourself or embracing misery. It is a powerful exercise in building resilience and systematically dismantling the fear of loss. By willingly facing small, manageable hardships, you inoculate yourself against the shock and despair of larger, unexpected ones. The Stoic philosopher Seneca was a man of immense wealth, yet he regularly practiced living in poverty for a few days each month. He would wear shabby clothes, eat plain bread, and sleep on a hard bed. He did this to reassure himself that his peace of mind was not held captive by his luxurious lifestyle. He wrote that he was testing himself to see if the conditions he feared were actually bearable. He was building a psychological immune system. The goal is to discover that you are more capable and durable than you ever believed. The comfort you think you need is often just a story you tell yourself. Practical applications of this are simple and safe. You could start your day with a 1-minute cold shower. You might choose to skip a meal, not for dieting, but to feel the sensation of hunger and realize it passes. You could walk to the store instead of driving, or spend an evening without any digital screens. Each of these small acts is a vote of confidence in your own fortitude. They are reminders that you can handle discomfort, that your spirit is not so fragile. So, for the coming week, what one small voluntary discomfort will you choose? Will you take the colder shower, or perhaps forego that second cup of coffee? This single act is a direct challenge to the part of you that believes it needs ease to be happy, and it is the first step toward a profound and lasting self-reliance. Men are disturbed not by things but by the views which they take of them. This famous line from Epictetus cuts to the very heart of our emotional experience. It reveals a truth so simple it is easy to miss, that our suffering does not come from the events of our lives, but from the labels and stories we instantly attach to them. The world presents us with neutral facts, and we are the ones who paint them with meaning, declaring one thing a catastrophe and another a blessing. Your power, then, lies not in changing the world, but in mastering this inner act of judgment. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly. He would advise himself to strip away the opinion or the story he was telling himself about an event, to see the thing itself, plain and simple. He understood that it is the second layer, our interpretation, that holds all the emotional charge. Think again of that traffic jam. The cars are not moving. That is the neutral fact. The stress and the anger arrive the moment you judge this fact. You tell yourself a story. This is a disaster. I am going to be late. My whole day is ruined. That story, that judgment, is what creates the turmoil inside you. The event itself is just stopped cars. Your judgment is the source of the suffering. This principle gives you a profound kind of leverage. When a feeling of anger or anxiety arises, you can learn to pause and ask a powerful question. What is the story I am telling myself right now? If a colleague seems to ignore you in the hallway, the neutral fact is that they walked past. Your judgment might be, they are disrespecting me or they do not like me. That judgment sparks hurt or indignation. But if you challenge that story, if you consider other possibilities, perhaps they are simply preoccupied with a personal worry, the emotional charge instantly begins to dissolve. The event did not change, but your relationship to it has transformed entirely. So, bring to mind a recent moment of frustration or sadness. Look past the event itself and search for the hidden judgment you made. What was the story you told yourself about what happened? And if you were to tell yourself a different, more compassionate, or more neutral story, how would that change the way you feel? This act of re-evaluation is not self-deception. It is the careful work of seeing reality more clearly, free from the distortions of our own automatic reactions. Anxiety and regret are taxes on a life lived anywhere but here. We pay this tax with our mental energy and our peace of mind, borrowing trouble from a future that may never arrive or replaying scenes from a past we cannot change. This brings us to the seventh Stoic principle, the profound understanding that the present moment is the only arena where our true power exists. Your will cannot operate in yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's uncertainties. It can only ever function right here, right now. Letting go of the past and the future is not a passive surrender. It is the most active and strategic form of control you can wield, because it concentrates all your resources on the one point in time where you can actually make a difference. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this anchor in his private meditations. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." He advised himself to focus on the task at hand with precise, direct action, to love that which you are drawn to by fate, and to love the people destiny has placed beside you, but to love them sincerely right now. The past is a ghost, the future a dream. Only the present is real, and it is the only place where your character can be expressed and your strength can be applied. Imagine someone who has a critical presentation in 1 week. They are so consumed by visions of potential failure, of stumbling over their words or facing tough questions, that their mind is perpetually in that feared future. This mental time travel drains them. They sit down to prepare, but their anxiety makes them distracted and inefficient. They are trying to control an outcome that does not yet exist, while neglecting the one thing they can control, the quality of their preparation in this very hour. By releasing the imagined future and returning their attention fully to the present task, researching one more point or practicing one more run-through, they reclaim their power. The preparation becomes focused and effective, which is ironically the single best way to influence that future outcome. To experience this shift directly, try a simple 1-minute exercise. Wherever you are, pause and bring your full attention to your breath. Do not try to change it, just notice the sensation of the air moving in and out. Feel your chest rise and fall. Your mind will wander, that is natural. Gently guide it back to the breath. For this 1 minute, there is no past to regret and no future to fear. There is only this single, continuous moment. Notice how this simple act of anchoring yourself in the present creates a small but palpable space of calm, a stillness from which your next right action can clearly emerge. A forest fire does not destroy the mighty oak, it forges the resilience in its roots. The obstacle is not in the way, the obstacle is the way. This is the 8th and perhaps most empowering Stoic principle, the art of transforming adversity into your greatest advantage. The Stoics did not see hardship as a sign that life was going wrong. They saw it as the essential training ground for the very virtues they sought to cultivate. A life without difficulty would be a life without the opportunity to build courage, patience, or perseverance. It is in the friction that we find our traction. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who faced constant war, plague, and betrayal, wrote these powerful words to himself: "The blazing fire makes flames and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." A weaker fire is extinguished by a log, but a strong, well-built fire uses that same log as fuel to burn even brighter. Your challenges are not blocks on your path, they are the fuel for your inner fire, if you know how to use them. Consider the Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus. He was a respected philosopher in Rome, but he was exiled not once but twice to a barren and desolate Greek island. A lesser person would have seen this as a crushing end to their life's work, but Musonius did not. He saw his exile as a perfect, if harsh, classroom. He embraced the harsh conditions, the solitude, the lack of comforts, and used them to deepen his practice of philosophy. He continued to teach the locals who would listen, turning his punishment into a mission. He proved that his philosophy was not just for comfortable lecture halls, but was robust enough to thrive in the most difficult circumstances. His exile did not break him, it demonstrated his unbreakable nature. This is the ultimate reframe. The difficult coworker is not a curse, they are your patience trainer. The financial setback is not a ruinous event, it is your resourcefulness coach. The project that feels overwhelming is not a trap, it is your perseverance gym. Every single obstacle carries hidden within it the exact virtue you need to develop. So bring to mind one current difficulty you are facing. It could be a personal conflict, a professional setback, or an internal struggle. Now ask yourself this transformative question: what specific virtue is this situation inviting me to practice? Is it the courage to have a difficult conversation? The patience to endure a slow and frustrating process? The discipline to stay focused when you want to quit? Name the virtue, and suddenly, the obstacle is no longer your enemy. It has become your most demanding and therefore your most valuable teacher. This principle sounds counterintuitive at first, yet it is one of the most powerful psychological tools the Stoics ever developed. It is called negative visualization or premeditatio malorum, which means the premeditation of evils. This is not about cultivating pessimism, but about immunizing yourself against future shock. The practice involves deliberately and vividly imagining the loss of the things you value most, not to invite misery, but to forge a profound gratitude for their presence in your life right now, and to build a resilience that prepares you for any turn of fate. The Stoic philosopher Seneca advised us to let the mind anticipate what fortune might take, so we are not caught off guard. He wrote that we should remind ourselves that we will not always have the pleasures we now enjoy, and that this very thought will lead us to appreciate them more keenly while we have them. The goal is to taste the potential loss in a controlled way, so that if it ever happens, the blow is less severe, and so that our current enjoyment is sharpened into a deep, conscious thankfulness. Think of it as a fire drill for the soul. You practice the evacuation not because you want the building to burn, but so you are calm and prepared if the alarm ever sounds. In doing so, you also return to your desk with a renewed sense of the safety you usually take for granted. Here is a simple way to practice this today. For just a moment, close your eyes and allow yourself to imagine that you have lost your job. Do not dwell on the panic, but feel the initial jolt. Then see yourself moving through the practical steps of updating your resume and reaching out to your network. Notice how, when you open your eyes and return to the present, your computer and your desk suddenly feel less like burdens and more like gifts. Or briefly imagine that a loved one is no longer in your life. Let the feeling of that absence wash over you, not to create sorrow, but so that when you next see them or speak to them, your interaction is infused with a deeper, more present affection, free from the usual distractions. This exercise systematically dismantles the illusion of permanence that lulls us into taking things for granted. So, as you go about your day, choose one thing you cherish: your health, your home, a specific relationship. Mentally lose it for just a few seconds, and then, as you return to reality, pay close attention to the powerful wave of gratitude that follows. You have not lost anything. You have simply rediscovered its true worth. The most impregnable fortress is the one you carry within you. This final Stoic principle reveals the ultimate source of your strength, the sovereignty of your own mind. The Stoics called this the hegemonikon, your ruling faculty. It is the command center of your consciousness, the place where all your judgments are formed, and where you give or withhold your consent to the impressions the world presents. True control is not about managing external chaos, but about becoming the unwavering guardian of this inner gate. No event, no criticism, no piece of bad news has any inherent power to disturb you. It only gains that power the moment you open the gate and grant it entry, the moment you assent to its meaning. Marcus Aurelius described this state with perfect clarity, writing, "The soul becomes a fortress indeed when it retires into its own self-sufficiency." When you stop seeking validation and security from the outside, you discover an unassailable peace within. Your inner citadel stands firm, not because the world has become calm, but because you have stopped inviting the storm inside. Consider the experience of enduring an insult. The words themselves are just vibrations in the air, a set of sounds. They are external phenomena, no different from the sound of a car passing by. The sting, the anger, the hurt, these do not come from the words. They arise the moment you internally agree with the insult, the moment you grant it credibility and allow it to define your self-worth. You have, in that instant, surrendered the keys to your inner fortress, but you have another choice. You can observe the words as mere noise, recognizing that their power exists only if you confer it. You can let them strike the outer walls of your citadel and fall away harmless because you never opened the gate. This is not about suppressing emotion, but about exercising your sovereign right to choose which impressions you let shape your inner world. Bring to mind one external criticism that currently bothers you, a comment from a colleague or a judgment from a family member. Now practice the act of withdrawing your assent. Look at the criticism as a simple statement, separate from any truth you have assigned to it. What happens to its emotional weight when you stop endorsing it? The comment may not vanish, but its power to disrupt your peace dissolves, because you have reclaimed your authority as the sole ruler of your inner realm. Are you carrying the weight of a story that has already been written? The 11th Stoic principle confronts this directly, teaching us that the past exists entirely outside our control. To dwell on it with regret or nostalgia is a form of self-imposed bondage, a voluntary prison where we are both the inmate and the jailer. True freedom is found not in rewriting history, but in releasing our emotional grip on it. The past is a collection of unchangeable facts, but the narrative we weave around those facts, the meaning we assign to them, is entirely optional. We can choose to learn from the past and then consciously let it go. The philosopher Seneca addressed this with piercing clarity. He asked, what is more foolish than to torment oneself about something that is already past and cannot be changed? He observed that we are often weighed down by what is irrevocable, as if our sorrow could somehow undo what has been done, but the river of time flows only one way. We cannot go back and alter a single moment. The only thing we can change is our relationship to those moments, here and now. Consider two people who made a significant career mistake 5 years ago. The first person replays the error constantly. They see it as a permanent stain on their record, a story of failure that defines their professional identity. This narrative becomes a cage, limiting their ambition and filling them with a fear of trying again. The second person made the same mistake. They felt the sting of it, learned whatever lesson it had to offer about judgment or preparation, and then, deliberately, they moved forward. They do not deny the event happened, but they refuse to let a single chapter dictate the entire story of their life. One is anchored in a harbor of regret, while the other is sailing forward with the wind of experience in their sails. This week, take a small but powerful step toward your own freedom. Write down one past regret on a slip of paper. Look at it, acknowledge the lesson it contained, and then symbolically tear it up or burn it safely. This physical act is a commitment to your own release. You are not erasing the past, you are simply choosing to stop paying the emotional rent on a property you can no longer inhabit. Worry is a down payment on a debt you may never owe. That mental energy you spend agonizing over what might happen is a cost you pay in the only currency you truly possess, your present peace of mind. This 12th principle confronts our anxious fixation on the future, revealing it as a profound misallocation of our inner resources. The future is inherently uncertain, a landscape of possibilities we cannot command. Anxiety pretends to be a form of control, a way of bracing for impact, but in truth, it is a rehearsal for a performance that may never take place. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a simple but life-altering question to puncture this cycle. He asked, "Why are you troubled by things that have not yet happened?" His point was not to ignore potential dangers, but to recognize that your suffering in this moment is entirely self-inflicted by a mind that has traveled into a fictional tomorrow. There is a crucial distinction between useful preparation and useless fretting. Preparation is a present moment action you control, like saving money or learning a new skill. Worry is a passive state of fear about an outcome you do not control, like the stability of the stock market or another person's reaction. They feel similar, but one builds strength while the other drains it. Imagine two people who share a family history of a certain illness. One person spends hours each week consumed by anxiety, searching for symptoms online and imagining a future of incapacity. This worry paralyzes them, stealing the joy from their healthy days. The other person acknowledges the genetic risk, a neutral fact. They then focus their energy on the sphere of their control, scheduling regular checkups, adopting a healthier diet, and going for daily walks. They are preparing, not despairing. The first person pays the price of the disease without having it. The second invests in their present well-being, regardless of what the future holds. Take a moment and bring to mind your own top 3 worries about the future. Write them down if you can. Now, hold each one up to the light of this simple filter. Is this worry about something I can actively prepare for right now, or is it pure speculation about an uncontrollable event? For every item in the preparable category, you can immediately channel that anxious energy into a single, concrete action. For every item that is pure speculation, you can practice the liberating act of setting it down, recognizing that you are borrowing trouble from a tomorrow that is not yet yours to manage. That space between an event and your reaction is where your freedom lies. The 13th Stoic principle, the Power of Assent, teaches you how to claim that territory. It is the disciplined practice of not automatically believing every thought that pops into your head. An impression, what the Stoics called a fantasia, is just the initial spark, a raw, unexamined piece of data from the senses or the mind. It is the sudden feeling of heat in your chest when someone cuts you off in traffic, or the sinking sensation when you read a terse email. That impression is involuntary. But what happens next is entirely your choice. You can either give your assent, endorsing the impression as truth, or you can withhold it, holding it at arm's length for examination. This moment of examination is your sovereign power. Epictetus drilled this into his students with relentless clarity. He said that when any disturbing impression comes to you, you have the power to say to it, "You are just an impression, and not necessarily the thing you claim to be." He advised them to test it, to see if it concerns something within their control, and to refuse to be carried away by its initial force. Your mind is not a passive receiver of thoughts, it is a gatekeeper. Think of that flash of anger. The impression is the surge of adrenaline, the quickened pulse. It is a biological reaction. The automatic, unthinking assent is the immediate internal shout, "That person is a jerk. They did that on purpose, I have been wronged." Once you assent to that story, the anger floods your system and dictates your actions. You might honk your horn aggressively or seethe for the next hour. But if, in that critical space, you pause and simply observe the impression without granting it your approval, everything changes. You notice the heat, the tension, but you do not fuel it with a narrative of injustice. You see it for what it is, a feeling, a physiological event. From that place of observation, you can choose a different response, one grounded not in reflexive emotion, but in your own values. This week, make it your practice to catch just one strong negative impulse. The next time you feel a wave of irritation or a pang of anxiety, create that mental pause. Do not try to stop the feeling, just watch it. Observe the physical sensations and the initial, automatic thought without buying into it. In that small, deliberate gap, you will discover the source of a control that no external event can ever take from you. Your current problem, seen from 1,000 years in the future, is already ancient history. This is the 14th Stoic principle, a powerful mental exercise called the view from above. It is the practice of zooming out, far beyond the confines of your own life, to see your struggles and triumphs from a cosmic vantage point. By doing this, you shrink the ego and reveal the beautiful, fleeting insignificance of the moment that feels so overwhelmingly important. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this perspective in his private writings. He would remind himself to frequently consider the vastness of time and the countless universes, and then to see how your own brief moment is but a tiny speck. He imagined looking down from a high mountain upon the vast flocks of people, their endless comings and goings, their struggles and their celebrations, all reduced to a silent, intricate dance. From that height, the quarrel in the Senate or the loss of a shipment of grain loses its crushing weight. It simply becomes one more movement in the eternal flow of human affairs. This is not meant to make your life feel meaningless, but to free you from the tyranny of self-importance. The argument that feels like a battle for your very soul, the financial worry that keeps you awake at night, These are real experiences, but their power over you depends entirely on the frame you put around them. Let's try this right now. Close your eyes for just a moment. Picture the room you are in. Now, imagine pulling back, seeing your entire home from above, then your street, then your whole city, a mosaic of lights and lives. Pull back further, seeing your country as a shape on a globe, and then further still, until the earth itself is a pale blue dot hanging in the immense black silence of space. All of human history has happened on that dot. Every empire, every work of art, every heartbreak and every joy, all of it right there. Now locate your current problem on that dot. Notice how its perceived size shifts. The emotional charge begins to soften, not because the problem is trivial, but because you have placed it in its true, vast context. So bring to mind that one specific stressor that feels so heavy right now. It could be a conflict at work or a personal fear. Now apply the view from above. See it from the perspective of next year or 10 years from now, or from that distant star. Does its grip on you loosen? The problem itself may not vanish, but your relationship to it transforms, leaving you with a quiet, unshakable calm. This is not a reminder of death, but a reminder to live. The 15th and perhaps most transformative Stoic principle is the practice of Memento Mori, a Latin phrase meaning remember you must die. This is not a morbid fixation on the end. It is a profound tool for reorienting your entire life toward what is essential. By holding the reality of our finite time in mind, we are gifted with a lens of perfect clarity. Petty grievances, social slights, and the relentless pursuit of trivial possessions suddenly lose their power over us. The awareness of an ending is what makes the story meaningful. It forces us to ask, if not now, when. Marcus Aurelius captured this delicate balance perfectly in his Meditations. He advised himself to live each day as if it were your last, while also being disciplined and composed as if you could live for a very long time. This is the wisdom of the practice. The first part, living as if it is your last day, infuses your actions with urgency and love. It asks you to leave nothing important unsaid and to waste no time on trifles. The second part, acting as if you will live forever, ensures that this urgency is channeled into building a life of virtue and purpose, not into frantic, short-sighted indulgence. It is about living with both passion and principle. We see this clarity emerge, often tragically, in those who receive a terminal diagnosis. The countless worries that once consumed them, the desire for a bigger house, the anxiety over a critical comment at work, the grudges held for years, all of it falls away in an instant. What remains is stark and beautiful, the profound importance of love, of heartfelt conversations, of quiet moments of connection, of being true to oneself. Memento Mori is the practice of inviting that radical clarity into your life today, without waiting for a crisis to force it upon you. It is the daily habit of using the reality of death to strip away the non-essential, so you can focus your energy on cultivating virtue and nurturing the connections that truly matter. So let this question settle in your mind. If you knew with certainty that you had 1 year left to live, what single worry would you drop from your shoulders this very moment? That worry, whatever it is likely an illusion, a shadow you have been carrying that has no substance in the light of what is truly important. Frustration is the echo of a desire that reality refused to meet. This brings us to the 16th Stoic principle, the discipline of desire. In its simplest form, this discipline means to want only what you are sure to get, a good character. Your desires, more than anything else, shape your emotional landscape. Every wave of disappointment, every surge of envy, every ache of dissatisfaction is almost always the direct result of a desire that has been thwarted. We desire a certain outcome, another person's approval, a specific possession, and when the world does not deliver, we are left with the painful gap between our expectations and reality. The Stoic solution is not to suppress wanting, but to redirect it with absolute precision toward the only thing you can ever truly possess, your own virtue. You learn to desire acting with courage, with justice, with wisdom, and with self-control. When your deepest wants are aligned with these internal qualities, you cannot fail to get what you want. Your success is guaranteed by your own choice, independent of any external event. The Stoic teacher Epictetus placed this discipline at the very core of his teachings. He said that freedom is secured not by the fulfillment of what you desire, but by the removal of desire itself, meaning the removal of desire for things outside your control. He taught his students to curb and purify their desires so they conformed to nature, which for the Stoics meant living a life of rational virtue. Your job is to make your wants so modest and so focused on your own sphere of command that fortune finds nothing to disrupt. Consider the powerful contrast between two different desires in a professional setting. One person desires a promotion. This is an external. Its fulfillment depends on the decision of a manager, the performance of colleagues, and the financial health of the company. This person ties their happiness and self-worth to this uncertain outcome. If the promotion comes, they feel validated, but only temporarily before the next desire arises. If it does not come, they are crushed, feeling that their effort was wasted and their value denied. Another person desires only to do excellent work. This is an internal desire fully within their control. They focus on being diligent, creative, and collaborative. They pour their energy into the process, the quality of their actions. Whether the promotion arrives or not, they have already achieved their true goal, the satisfaction of having acted with integrity and skill. The outcome is a separate event, but it cannot touch their core fulfillment. Bring to mind one of your strongest desires right now. It could be for a particular relationship to unfold a certain way, for a financial goal to be met, or for a specific recognition. Look at it with clear eyes and ask this fundamental question: is this desire for something within my complete control, or is its fulfillment dependent on forces outside of myself? The answer is not meant to make you abandon your aims, but to liberate you from the emotional tyranny they hold over you. You can still work toward the promotion, but your primary desire shifts from getting the title to earning it through your own virtuous effort. In doing so, you reclaim your peace, making it immune to the verdict of any external judge. Stoicism is not a philosophy of retreat, but of right engagement. This 17th principle, the discipline of action, calls you to step into the world with purpose, to act for the common good while holding the results with an open hand. It is the active expression of letting go, where your focus shifts from what you achieve to the integrity with which you act. Your duty is to the deed itself, not to the fruit it may or may not bear. You are called to be a force of good in the world, but your peace of mind must never become dependent on the world's reception of that good. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius provided the perfect compass for this. He advised himself, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one, and to do the next right thing with resolve, with humility, and for the collective benefit of humanity. Your primary concern is the virtue of your action, the justice, courage, and kindness embedded within it. The external success, the praise, the visible impact, these are secondary gifts that may or may not arrive, and your equanimity cannot be mortgaged to their arrival. Consider a volunteer who serves meals at a local shelter. They could approach their work with a desperate need to see homelessness solved, to witness every person they help immediately turn their life around. When this does not happen, they burn out, feeling their effort was futile. But another volunteer performs the exact same service, yet their focus is different. Their goal is the act of service itself, to offer a warm meal and a moment of human dignity with compassion and respect. They are detached from the grand, societal outcome they cannot control, and are instead fully invested in the quality of their action, which they can control. The first volunteer is crushed by the scale of the problem. The second finds deep fulfillment in the rightness of their small, consistent contribution. This week, identify one concrete action you can take for the benefit of others, with no expectation of recognition or reward. It could be a quiet act of kindness for a neighbor, a thoughtful piece of feedback for a colleague, or a small donation to a cause you believe in. Perform this action with your whole heart and then release it as if you were casting a seed into the wind. Your satisfaction comes from the planting, not from the certainty of the harvest. Do not just bear what is necessary, but love it. This 18th principle is the ultimate expression of Stoic strength, a deep and active embrace of fate known as amor fati. It is the final, most profound step beyond mere acceptance. You are not just tolerating the events of your life, you are welcoming them, understanding that every single one, especially the most difficult, is an essential ingredient in the person you are meant to become. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, though not a Stoic, captured this spirit perfectly when he wrote that his formula for human greatness is amor fati, the desire for nothing to be different, not in the future, not in the past, not for all eternity. This echoes the constant refrain of Marcus Aurelius, who counseled himself to accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to the health of the universe. He saw his life as a single thread woven into a vast, intelligent tapestry, and to resent any part of his own strand was to resent the beauty of the whole design. This is not about pretending that pain does not hurt. It is about recognizing that the pain itself is the raw material for your growth, the chisel that sculpts your resilience. Consider the story of an athlete who dedicated their entire youth to a single sport, only to have their career shattered by a sudden, irreversible injury. In the immediate aftermath, the loss felt like a death. The future they had worked for was gone. This is the moment where one path leads to bitterness, to a life defined by what was taken. But another path, the path of amor fati, began when they stopped asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and started asking, "What does this make possible?" The forced end of their athletic career created a void, and into that void flowed new possibilities they had never considered. It led them to coaching, where they discovered a deeper fulfillment in guiding young talent. It opened the door to academic study, uncovering a passion for sports medicine. The injury was not a tragedy in their story. It was the pivotal plot twist that redirected them toward a more multifaceted and meaningful life. It was the necessary fracture that allowed a stronger foundation to be built. Now, bring to mind one event from your own past that you still quietly resent, a failure or a rejection that left a scar. Look at that event not as a random misfortune, but as a necessary fork in your road. How did it change your direction? What strength did you develop specifically because you had to endure it? What door closed, forcing a different, perhaps more authentic, one to open? Try, just for a moment, to see that old wound not as a mistake by the universe, but as its precise and demanding instruction. You cannot control other people, full stop. This is the 19th principle, a truth so simple and absolute that our minds constantly rebel against it. We exhaust ourselves in a futile campaign to manage the beliefs, emotions, and behaviors of those around us, a campaign that always ends in the same place, frustration and a profound sense of powerlessness. Every attempt to control another person is a direct violation of the core Stoic dichotomy, a trespass into a territory that was never yours to command. Your sphere is your own mind and your own actions. Their sphere, with all its beautiful, frustrating complexity, belongs entirely to them. The Stoic teacher Epictetus laid down the law on this with perfect clarity. He said, "Remember that you are an actor in a play, the character of which is determined by the playwright. Your business is to act well the part assigned to you, but to choose the part is another's. You are responsible for your own performance on the stage of life, but you have no authority over the script given to the actor standing next to you. Their lines, their motivations, their delivery, these are their responsibility. Your strength does not come from directing their performance, but from perfecting your own." Consider the dynamic of a parent and an adult child. One parent has a specific vision for their child's future, a prestigious career path they believe will lead to security and happiness. They pressure, they persuade, they express disappointment when the child pursues a different passion, perhaps in the arts or a trade. This relentless effort to control creates a relationship defined by tension and resentment. The child feels unseen and untrusted, while the parent feels unappreciated and anxious. Now consider another parent. They offer their wisdom and experience freely. They voice their concerns with love, but they ultimately respect their child's sovereign right to choose. They release their grip on the outcome. This does not mean they stop caring. It means they redirect their energy into what they can control, being a supportive and non-judgmental presence. The relationship deepens in trust, and the parent discovers a quiet strength that is no longer dependent on their child's life choices. This principle applies to every relationship, from a manager and an employee to a partner in a marriage. The manager cannot force an employee to be innovative or diligent. They can only create an environment that encourages those qualities and then judge the employee's work fairly. The partner cannot command their spouse to feel a certain way. They can only communicate their own feelings honestly and act with integrity. The moment you shift from trying to control the other person to mastering your own responses, you reclaim an immense amount of energy and peace. So, bring to mind one specific relationship where you feel that familiar tug, the desire to steer another person's decisions or correct their attitude. It might be a friend's lifestyle, a colleague's work ethic, or a family member's political views. Now, ask yourself this liberating question: what single effort at control could I release today? What would happen if I poured that same mental and emotional energy back into my own sphere, into my own conduct and my own peace? The tension in the relationship would likely ease, not because the other person changed, but because you stopped fighting a battle you were never meant to win. A calm harbor remains still, untouched by the storm that rages or the sun that shines upon it. The Stoic sage is not unfeeling but unshakable. This state of profound inner stability is called equanimity, and it represents the ultimate strength gained from letting go of what you cannot control. It is the mental and emotional balance that comes from no longer being jerked around by your attachments to the things that come and go. Your inner peace becomes a constant, independent of the praise or criticism, the gains or losses that fortune delivers. Seneca described this ideal perfectly when he wrote of the even-tempered soul, the one that remains calm in the face of both adversity and good fortune. He observed that it is a great mind that can surrender itself to fate, but a greater mind still that can stand unaltered whether fortune comes or departs. This is not a flat, emotionless existence. It is a deep and steady current of purpose that flows beneath the surface waves of temporary pleasure and pain. Consider the stark contrast between two people. One is highly reactive, riding a roller coaster of emotion based on daily events. A piece of good news, like a bonus at work, sends them into a state of ecstatic celebration. But then, a piece of bad news, like a critical comment, plunges them into despair and self-doubt. Their entire sense of well-being is tethered to these external triggers, leaving them perpetually off balance. The other person, cultivating equanimity, receives the same bonus. They feel a genuine appreciation, but their core stability is unchanged. They understand the money is a preferred indifferent, a gift that is welcome but not essential to their worth. When the criticism arrives, they meet it with the same reasoned calm. They assess it for useful feedback without letting it define their self-esteem. Their inner world is a fortress, not a weather vane spinning with every shift in the wind. Now, take a quiet moment to rate your own current level of equanimity on a simple scale of 1 to 10. Where do you stand between total reactivity and unshakable calm? Then, identify just one external event, a specific type of news or a particular person's opinion that most easily disrupts your balance. Simply naming this trigger is the first step in disarming its power over your inner peace. The day is not over until you have held court with yourself. This 21st principle invites you into a nightly ritual of profound self-honesty, the practice of Stoic self-examination. It is here, in the quiet of the evening, that you transform the day's events into raw material for your growth. You are not replaying the day to punish yourself, but to learn. You sit as both the witness and the judge, reviewing your thoughts and actions to see with clear eyes where you grasped for control you never had, and where you wisely chose to let go and act with virtue. The Stoic philosopher Seneca was a dedicated practitioner of this evening meditation. In his letters, he describes how he would interrogate his own day. He wrote, "I make use of this privilege and daily plead my cause before myself. When the light has been removed from my sight, I pass the whole day in review and measure all my deeds and words." He was not looking for sins, but for mistakes in judgment, for the moments his peace was stolen because he assented to a troubling impression or desired an external outcome. The process itself is beautifully simple and takes only a few minutes. First, ask yourself, what did I do well today? Where did I act with courage, patience, or integrity? Acknowledge these victories, for they reinforce your strength. Next, and this requires courage, ask, where did I err? Where did I mistakenly try to control another person's opinion or a specific result? What unexamined judgment caused me distress? Perhaps you felt a surge of anger when a meeting was cancelled. The self-examination reveals that the anger came from a story you told yourself, that your time was not being respected. The event was a cancelled meeting, a neutral fact. Your judgment about it was the source of your turmoil. This nightly review systematically rewires your automatic reactions. It turns your life into a live classroom where every interaction is a lesson in the art of letting go. Tonight, before you sleep, grant yourself just 5 minutes of quiet reflection. Sit with the single question, where did I try to control the uncontrollable today? And where did I successfully practice release? This is not an exercise in criticism, but the gentle, consistent cultivation of the unshakable inner citadel you are building, one examined day at a time. You are not a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a single drop. This poetic truth lies at the heart of the 22nd Stoic principle, the profound interconnectedness of the cosmos. The Stoics called this sympatheia, the understanding that the universe is a single, living, breathing organism, and that we are inseparable threads woven into its fabric. Every attempt to exert absolute, separate control is a rebellion against this natural unity, a struggle that ultimately leaves us feeling isolated and powerless. When we release that struggle, we do not lose ourselves, we find our true place within a vast and meaningful whole. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this perspective to ground himself. He wrote in his private meditations that we should always think of the world as one living being, with a single substance and a single soul. Observe how all things are submitted to the perception of this one being. All act in concert with one movement, and all are the co-causes of all that comes to pass. He saw his own role not as a solitary ruler, but as a vital organ in the body of the universe, with a duty to contribute to the health of the whole. This is the ultimate perspective shift that dissolves the anxious ego. Imagine a single leaf on a mighty oak tree. The leaf might believe it is entirely separate, fighting its own battles against the wind and the sun. It might strain and struggle, trying to control its position or demand more sunlight than its neighbors. In doing so, it only exhausts itself, but the leaf is not separate. Its very life is drawn from the deep roots and the sturdy trunk. Its health is utterly dependent on the health of the entire tree. When it stops struggling and simply accepts its role, turning naturally toward the light and contributing to the process of photosynthesis, it fulfills its purpose and thrives as part of something magnificent. Your own life is that leaf. Your well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of your family, your community, and the natural world around you. The food you eat, the air you breathe, the knowledge you use all flow to you from this intricate web of connection. To believe you are in control of your tiny domain, isolated from the rest, is the fundamental illusion. Now bring to mind your own daily routine, from the water you drink to the work you do. Can you trace the countless invisible threads that connect your personal well-being to the well-being of strangers, to the health of ecosystems, and to the flow of the global community? How might your sense of struggle ease if you saw your challenges not as solitary burdens, but as movements within a vast, interconnected dance? Wealth is not having many possessions, but having few wants. This liberating truth cuts to the heart of the 23rd Stoic principle, the freedom of minimal needs. The more you require for your happiness, the more vulnerable you become. Each desire, each possession becomes a chain that fortune can pull, a lever that external events can use to control your inner state. True power and independence are born from systematically letting go of the superfluous, discovering that your essential well-being requires very little. Our modern culture is a machine for manufacturing wants, convincing us that the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next status symbol will finally deliver the contentment we seek. But this only creates an endless cycle of desire and temporary satisfaction, leaving us perpetually anxious and dependent on forces we cannot command. Stoic simplicity is not about poverty or self-denial for its own sake. It is a strategic path to liberation, a conscious choice to reduce your points of vulnerability. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, who began his life as a slave, knew this freedom intimately. He asked his students, "Who is the rich man?" He answered, "He who is content." He observed that freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by destroying it. When you are content with a simple meal, you are free from the tyranny of the gourmet restaurant. When you are content with modest clothing, you are free from the anxiety of changing fashions. Your peace of mind is no longer held hostage by a long list of external requirements. Consider the stark contrast between two lives. One person is deeply entangled in consumer culture. They have a large house, a luxury car, and a wardrobe full of designer labels, all financed by a high-pressure job they dislike and a mountain of debt. They are constantly anxious about their credit score, their next paycheck, and maintaining the appearance of success. A single financial setback, a job loss, could shatter their entire world. Their many possessions have not made them free, they have made them a servant to their own lifestyle. Now, consider another person who has consciously chosen a life of minimal needs. They live in a comfortable but modest home, drive a reliable used car, and find joy in experiences rather than acquisitions. They work a job that aligns with their values, free from the desperate need for a massive income. Their peace is not dependent on the stock market or the approval of others. They are, in a profound sense, unshakable because they have so little that fortune can take from them. Their strength comes from their lack of want. So, bring to mind your own life. Look around at your possessions, your subscriptions, your habits. What are 3 material things you believe you need but could, in truth, live without? It might be a particular streaming service, the latest smartphone, or a closet full of clothes you rarely wear. Simply considering their absence is not an exercise in loss, but a taste of the immense freedom that would follow. The space they occupy is not just in your home, but in your mind. Releasing them would be an act of reclaiming your own power. Anger is a brief madness, and it always stems from a frustrated wish to control. This powerful passion, which the Stoics viewed as the most destructive of all, is not an uncontrollable force that descends upon you. It is your own inner protest, a violent reaction to the world refusing to bend to your will. Seneca dedicated an entire work to this subject, On Anger, where he dissects its irrationality with surgical precision. He writes that anger is a temporary insanity, for we are beside ourselves, no longer in command of our own mind. We become a slave to the very emotion that promises power, lashing out because reality has dared to contradict our personal script. The anger you feel is a clear signal, a flashing red light indicating that you have mistakenly tied your peace of mind to an external event you cannot command. Think of a typical moment of road rage. You are driving and another car suddenly cuts you off. The initial jolt of fear is natural, but the surge of red-hot anger that follows, the shouting, the honking, that is a choice. It is the choice to endorse a hidden, rigid expectation, the belief that all other drivers should be courteous and predictable, that the flow of traffic should conform to your personal schedule. This is an expectation over which you have precisely zero control. Your anger is the futile attempt to punish the universe for its non-compliance. It is a tantrum thrown by the ego, exhausting you while leaving the other driver completely unaffected. The Stoic solution is not to suppress the feeling, but to dissolve it at its source by examining the faulty judgment that created it. Bring to mind the last time you felt truly angry. Look past the person or the event that triggered it and search for the specific, unmet expectation hiding just beneath the surface. Were you expecting a family member to remember your request? Were you expecting your body to never feel tired or ill? Were you expecting a project to proceed without a single hitch? That expectation, that demand for a specific reality, is the root. The moment you identify it and consciously release your grip on it, the anger loses its fuel. It may not vanish instantly, but its power over you is broken, and you are returned to the calm center from which you can respond, not just react. Courage is the knowledge of what to endure and what not to endure. This Stoic definition reframes courage not as a blind fearlessness, but as a clear-eyed calculation. It is the wisdom to know when your comfort, your reputation, or even your safety must be surrendered for the sake of a greater principle. Fear itself is not the enemy, it is a natural signal. The problem arises when we become attached to the illusion of absolute security, when we let the desire for a risk-free life paralyze us from taking necessary and virtuous action. True courage is the moment you let go of that impossible demand for safety and choose instead to act with integrity. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus lived this principle when he openly defied the Emperor Nero, risking torture and execution to speak truth to power. He judged that his duty to philosophy and to his conscience was more important than his own life. For him, a life lived in cowardly silence was a fate worse than death. Consider the modern whistleblower who uncovers corruption within their own organization. They are gripped by a very real fear, the fear of financial ruin, of professional blacklisting, of social ostracism. Their desire for security and a quiet life screams at them to stay silent, but their courage emerges when they make a different judgment that the cause of justice, of protecting the public, is more important than their personal comfort. They let go of the outcome they cannot control, whether they will be believed or vindicated, and they act because it is right. Their strength is found in that very release. What is the one fear currently holding you back from a right action? Is it the fear of rejection that keeps you from having an important conversation? Or the fear of failure that prevents you from starting a meaningful project? Identify that fear and then ask yourself this transformative question: what virtue, whether it is courage, justice, or honesty, is more important than the comfort you are clinging to? Gratitude is the antidote to the feeling that the world owes you something. That simmering sense of entitlement, the belief that life should be easier, fairer, or more generous, is a form of control. It is a quiet demand for a different reality. When you practice gratitude, you are not just being polite or positive. You are performing a radical act of release. You are letting go of that demanding narrative, and instead, you are choosing to see and appreciate the world exactly as it is, finding a profound sense of abundance in what you already possess. Entitlement insists the universe must conform to your wishes. Gratitude meets the universe with open hands, thankful for whatever it provides. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius began his private meditations each day with this very practice. He did not list his imperial powers or his vast wealth. Instead, he wrote down his gratitude for the virtues he had learned from others, for his own health, and for the character of the people around him. He started with his own mind, writing, "From my grandfather Verus, I learned good morals and the government of my temper." He trained himself to see the gifts embedded in every relationship and every circumstance, even the difficult ones. This daily ritual systematically rewired his perception, turning his attention away from what he lacked and toward the immense riches that were already his. You can cultivate this same perspective with a simple, daily practice. Each evening, take just 1 minute to write down 3 specific things you are grateful for. The key is to move beyond the general. Do not just write family. Write the sound of my daughter laughing this morning. Do not just write health. Write the feeling of my legs carrying me up the stairs. Focus on the simple, often overlooked textures of your life. The warmth of a blanket, the taste of clean water, the quiet of the early dawn. This act forces your mind to scan the landscape of your day for gifts, and in doing so, it cannot simultaneously dwell on lacks and resentments. So, right now, pause this video for just a moment. Do not just think about it, actually do it. Mentally list 5 specific things you are grateful for at this very second. The device you are using to listen, the air filling your lungs, the knowledge you are gaining, the chair supporting you, the simple fact of your awareness. Feel how, for those few seconds, the anxious grip of wanting something else simply loosens and falls away. Your journey into the heart of Stoicism reveals a single, transformative truth. The paradox of control is the very source of your strength. We began by drawing the crucial line between what is yours to command and what is not, the bedrock of the dichotomy. We discovered that acceptance is not surrender, but the clear-eyed courage that ends our internal war with reality. We learned to invest fully in our actions while holding outcomes with an open hand, and we saw how every obstacle, when embraced, becomes the fuel for our resilience. We anchored ourselves in the only moment where our power is real, the ever-present now. This entire path is an active, disciplined practice of redirection, of ceasing to waste your spirit on the unchangeable and investing it entirely in the one thing that will always matter, the quality of your own character and your reasoned choices. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offers a final, unifying thought. He said that freedom is the only worthy goal in life, which is achieved not through satisfying desire, but through conquering it. True freedom is the strength you gain when you stop demanding that the world conform to your wishes. So we leave you with this powerful, reflective question. What is one thing you can consciously release your grip on today to gain a greater strength tomorrow? It might be a specific worry about the future, a lingering resentment from the past, or the desperate need for a particular person's approval. We would be honored to hear your own insights on letting go in the comments below, and if this practical wisdom has served you, consider subscribing for more guidance to help you build your own unshakable inner citadel.